All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Rebels by Design Wrestling Podcast, brought to you by HustleJet ENT. I am your host, Steiner Recliner 83, and you are listening to episode number 23. And on this episode, we are going to discuss, or I'm going to share my experience of Squared Circle Expo 6. I right off of this past weekend, I had just got back from that trip, and I figured it would be appropriate to do an episode just on that. I know it's been a while since I've done an episode of the Rebels by Design Wrestling Podcast. I do apologize about that. I promise to be more consistent with episodes for the remainder of the year. Hopefully, in my plans, that things stay that way that I have planned. With that being said, we're going to step right into it. It was a 2-day event, and I attended both days, meeting so many different wrestlers, and experiencing a lot of things that were a lot of cool things along the way. The biggest thing, though, I have to say about this entire event was it was incredible. And if you are a true wrestling fan, no matter what your age is, what your favorite company is, these kind of events are worth going flat out, period. So before I get into like who I meet, and so forth, the event itself was in Indianapolis, Indiana, in the Midwest. They told me that it was a worldwide event, that there was over 30 of the there were 30 states of the United States that attended, as well as people from Canada and overseas as well on top of that. Which is very, very awesome to hear about. Incredible goods. I have gone for the last 4 years, and in the last 4 years, I have watched this thing continue to get better and better each year and grow each year. And this year, I would argue, was probably maybe the best one yet. And that's saying a lot, because every year I have gone, I have had an amazing experience. I have a memory that just stands out to why that made that show so amazing. And I will go ahead and talk about that briefly, because I know I have discussed and recapped last year's, I believe. So, but I have gone to this since 2002, 2003. Yes. The first one I went to was 2003. And that was a great year, because not only did I get to go and hang out with a friend of mine, and we get to experience that together. It was my birthday weekend, so adding that to the mix, and what can I say? There's a lot of great names I met that first year. The big one was it was seeing Lita the second time, as she was one half of the WWE Women's World Tag Champions. So it was a very rare occasion where at this event that we have had a active, current WWE champion in-house. And that's what Lita was at the time. She was one half of the Women's World Tag Team Champions. Because this was literally, I think, 1 or 2 weeks before the actual WrestleMania. I think it was the week before WrestleMania week, if I remember correctly on the timeline. Keep in mind that it was 4 years ago. Hard to believe. And she was fantastic. She was great. Then there was Demolition, was also on this one. Jamie Hayter from AEW was one of the other big headliners of the second day. MJF was day one. Line out the door. There was, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember everybody off top of my head on what was year one. But year two was Sting. And that was a bucket list. That was a true bucket list um, for that made that year so memorable. Lita was also there that year. There was a Mickey James was also the first 2 years. Victoria was the first 2 years. The Headbangers are there every single year. I want to get to them in a minute because there's something I want to talk about. But kind of recapping the years prior. The Nation of Domination was years two. Every single member except for The Rock. As far as the iteration of the version of that he was a part of, we're talking about Farouk / Ron Simmons, Mark Henry, D'Lo Brown, The Godfather, and they were all truly amazing that year. Nothing but great things to say about them, and you get to meet all of them, and they were all great. The Godfather is one of the most positive attitude guys I have probably have met. So to say talk about that, the kind of another thing that somebody that really stood out during that event was definitely him. Mick Foley. I'm gonna get it. He was year two, I believe. No, he was year one. Mick Foley was year one. He returned both last 2 years. He was only there for one day this past year, and I can tell you right now, he has lost some weight. He's looking really good for considering all the things he has been through. Um, but yes, Sting was one of the big things why I went to number two, and I besides all the fun that I had, as far as when it comes to beating talent, that was it. That what made two so special. Um, trying to remember another other people I met. Dustin Rhodes. Um, I believe he was last year. Dustin Rhodes was last year. Last year was a lot of AEW guys. Compared to prior, it was the first year that Lita wasn't there because she was just hint she was here this past over the weekend. So out of the four I've gone, she was at 3 to 4, which is awesome to see my wrestling buddy, my wrestling friend, Lita 3 of the 4 times at this event. So it was great to catch up with her. More on that in a minute. Because last year was a lot of AEW guys. It was Will Ospreay, Dustin Rhodes, try to remember. One off memory here. Layla, would have a late cool Layla. She was awesome. Uh, 2 years was the last minute addition because she replaced the injured Orange Cassidy, which was Mariah May, aka Blake Monroe. Now this was literally, I would say, just a month before she jumped to WWE to become Blake Monroe. This was, I think, this may have been one of her last, if not the last, uh, non-WWE signing that she did, as far as like going to conventions and whatnot. That was not something that WWE put on. I think that may have been the last event she did before she signed, if I remember correctly. Um, so that was really cool. And she was a very, very last minute replacement. Like, she showed up like the day before. They announced her at the day before the event actually took place. Like the Thursday, I think Wednesday or Thursday before the event, which was, keep in mind, the event is Friday and Saturday every year. So, like, you're talking about, like, the very, very last bit. And that's been a routine thing that we have seen with this event. Because the very first year, John Moxley literally was announced as I was driving to St. Louis, to Indianapolis. I stopped and got lunch, and then that was right when he just announced that Moxley was coming. Now, his wife, Renee Paquette, was already announced in advance. So last year also was the Hardys were there. Long line. No, excuse me. They were year two. They were year two. I remember that because last year was also I bet the Hurt Business for Strickland. Arn Tully Blanchard, Tully Blanchard last year was the last very of my favorite version of the Four Horsemen I had not met yet. Because I met Arn in year two of Squared Circle Expo. Not the event itself, number two, but my second one, which was Squared Circle, would have been number 4. We just did number 6 over of the overall, so it was the 4th edition. They're there for 4 and 5 with Arn Anderson, but this past year, but last year they had Barry Windham, J.J. Dillon, and Tully Blanchard all together. So everybody minus Rick. But I have met Barry and J.J. Dillon during the second NWA anniversary show that I got to attend to, which was NWA 74. They were doing a signing during that. That's how I met them. I met Flair at on a promotional tour that he was doing for his energy drink. So he was in town locally to have a picture taken with him. So that's how I got my experience with Ric Flair with an actual picture. I spoke to him briefly to help him find the restaurant and the hotel for when he was the special guest for the 73rd NWA anniversary show that was at the Chase. But I'm getting off topic a little bit, but kind of telling the backstory. So here's what happened at Square Circle 6 over the weekend, and it was a great event, jam packed with people. The coolest thing about this year compared to the previous years is one of the things they had was the ring worn gear. And it was incredible what they actually had. Because some of the things that you would have expected that you would have thought the WWE would have had. And I'm not lying when I say that. So walking in the room on your right side, you had the table for they had they were selling t-shirts and collecting donations to keep the thing going. What you don't notice until you're almost leaving, that by that table in the corner was one of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's attires during the mid-90s WCW, one of his last run as a full-time wrestler as television champion, including the actual one of the actual television titles that he had during that time. Now there was a scan QR barcode that showed pictures of where the wrestlers in that gear. Some you could tell what event they were. Others you could probably say, oh, that was multiple events. So then you start off with the first person attires you'll see are a few from Mick Foley. And sometimes and some of them are signed where the wrestlers have signed it. Did put like the event they awarded at. So with Mick Foley, you had the Mankind shirt that he wore at SummerSlam '97 in the cage match that he had with Triple H. There was that. There was one of his Mr. Sacco's. There was two of his Cactus Jack tops or attires. One was just a top. The other one was from ECW when he fought the Sandman. It was both the top and the pants. Then right next to that was also one of the Max Payne's whole outfit, including ring jacket. And they put it there obviously for smart reason because Max Payne was at one time Mick Foley's tag partner. So now keep so for your visuals for those that's listening and so forth. This is all where you walk straight and go to your right. You go down this way, and you kind of circle around and go up a little set there and go right again. So keep that in mind as far as a map. The next to that, we got DDP throughout the years. One of them, the main attire was the attire that he wore. It was the vest was dated that it was the attire that he wore at Bash at the Beach '98 when he was teaming with Karl Malone, taking a Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was one of the guests for Friday Only. The line was super really long to meet him. I didn't really jump into that one. Just saying. But there's also was one of his attire where he was television champion from like 94, 95 ish, I would say. Not dated. There was one of his robes from that era, as well as one of his jackets that he wore when he was a manager. The next to that, there was one of Johnny B. Bad's robes, just the robe. Again, was not really dated exactly when. I saw Mark Merrill himself post something on Facebook in regard to the image of it, but he didn't really specify when he wore it. But obviously it's mid '90s prior to him jumping to WWE. So 94, 95 is a definite guess. Next to that was, and the final area of the other side of the wall was the Ultimate Warrior and one Macho Man gear attire. It was the singlet and the matching Macho Man gear of the Mega Maniacs, which was supposed to be at summer. So we're talking late summer, early fall, 1992. They were supposed to be teaming against Flair and Razor Ramon. Warrior got replaced by Mr. Perfect, but they worked several matches together as a tag team, and this was their attire. So you had the Warrior Macho Mega Maniac singlet or Ultimate Maniacs. Yeah, I think the Ultimate Maniacs. Maniacs was Hogan and Beefcake. I got mixed up a little bit. So it was the Ultimate Maniacs Warrior singlet. The Ultimate Maniacs Macho Man attire was sitting next to that. One of Warrior's '96 attires that was promoting his wrestling school, I believe, was also on display. And I'm trying to remember what gear from his main WWE run was also there. Was one of the airbrushes towards the later part of that run. But I think it was one of his Rude. I want to say it was one of Rick Rude attires when he fought Rude. Not definite on that. Then he kind of turned turn left, and then it's kind of the back wall of this place. Keep in mind, this is a pretty good sized room because this was a had Jeff Hardy did a concert in this at one time. They had a that was on the that was happening at Square Circle number 3. Yeah, it was the fourth. The overall Square Circle fourth. The second time I went. Last year was a horror movie. Watched a lot of. No, they're watching They Live, hosted by the podcast of, Allison K and the Bunny. They do a horror podcast for horror movies and so forth. Now, on this back wall was the Click. You had the Oz robe. The next to that was a whole attire of Diesel, which I think it was worn multiple times during 95. Next to that was one of Shawn Michaels' babyface gear from 95. I seen the attire, like trying to place it what pay-per-view I saw it on. But definitely know it was babyface 95. There was one of Rachel Ramon's IC title belts and 2 of his attires. Now the gear, the one was his red tie set, probably best known from the 1993 Royal Rumble, and then in front of that was, I think he wore it 96 Razor Ramon. I want to say Royal Rumble 96 against Goldust was one of the times he wore that particular attire. There was Triple H and The Rock's attire from SummerSlam 98, from their famous Intercontinental Championship ladder match, as well as the 1-2-3 Kids attire that he wore where he fought Bret Hart for the WWE title in 1994, which was a incredible match, by the way. Still a classic. Highly recommend if you can find it. And also from Shawn Michaels is the jacket he wore when he had to vacate the IC title in 1995, when he had the concussion. So that actual jacket he wore when he had to vacate that title was also there. Then you kind of turn in front of an actual stage. You had 3 Ric Flair robes. It was one of them was definitely the robe he won when he won his first world title, I believe. That match with Hardy Race. That power blue robe. That's one of his more famous robes. The other 2, he wore, I think, on a couple occasions. One was red and gold, and I want to say that was used towards the I want to say 99 era, and the other one was from, I think, the return to WCW after his WWE run. So 93 purple. Then you kind of had, then after that it was Macho Man Randy Savage stuff, and it kind of in the almost on the sidewalk corner up to the kind of a bar area or whatever. They kind of put a curtain in front of the bar area. And the majority of the Macho Man gear was a lot of his stuff he wore as there's 2 of them that he wore when he was the commentator for WWE. Then there was one of his outfits he wore from that time, and there was another shirt that he wore during that time. Then you have one of his Macho King attires, as well as there was one of Miss Elizabeth Miss Elizabeth's dresses that was displayed next to it was really neat to see. Then you turn to this other, basically midway through the room, the backside was a lot of Bobby Heenan stuff. And they kind of also put a lot of the Heenan family member stuff that, with it. What shocked me and now one of the things that shocked me was Bobby Heenan's WrestleMania 3 tuxedo was right there. There was that. There was one of his, two of his television jackets that he wore during the early '90s. One was from one of his Raw jackets, or I'm trying to think what jacket it was. There's two. There was two of them. One was for All American, and then and the other one was from like I would say just '93 television. So there was also one of his red jackets, and one of his known black was silver studded that he normally would wear when he was managing Rick Rude. Another one when he managed Mr. Perfect, including one of Mr. Perfect's singlets, which was the blue and black, the blue one with the black triangle piece in the shoulder blades. That was that one. One of Rude's tires from like one of the Halloween Havocs, because it was all Halloween themed. I think it was. I think it may have been the one he fought Flair in. After, if I'm not mistaken. Then there was like the Barbarian's outfit, is that coat that he wore with the fur coat that with the two skulls on each shoulder that he wore when he broke from the Powers of Pain era. There were quite, and also Bobby Heenan's Andre the Giant themed singlet, which I thought was also a cool piece that they had. Then you kind of turn the corner, and so when you turn this corner, now you're facing towards the entrance, across from the Mick Foley and DDP stuff, but kind of up a little ways, a little bit, kind of more across to the merch table or whatever. All Heart Foundation stuff, and including one Jim Neidhart '94 attire, the all pink one. There were 3 Bret Hart ring worn attires. One, I would say, looks just like the attire he wore at the Iron Man match with Shawn Michaels, which he wore over his heel run in '97, when he wore the all black and attire. Then there was a attire that was definitely from like '93 he wore. And then there was another one for like '92. There is a little difference. And one of the pants from '94. And then, as well as the jacket that he wore when he returned from after the Iron Man match, after the hiatus from Survivor Series '96 when he fought Austin. That jacket with the little bit of yellow in it, that was there. Then kind of next to that was Owen stuff. The King of Hearts singlet, the 2 Slammy Awards, and one of the Blue Blazer mask. And on the floor there was just a torso body of David Hart Smith, the British Bulldog's son, from the Hart Dynasty run that they had in WWE. Now it was really so. The first time I walked through this, it was no way. It was just fans. But I did go back to there a little bit later, and there was a cool moment that happened there where, in that area, Diana Hart and David Washington Jr., you know, or David Hart Smith in the WWE, they were in there talking about that stuff. And right next to the Hart stuff was Roddy Piper's stuff. Full attire, kilt, shirt, and tights, two different displays. The original Slammy Award for the first Slammy Award, that the iconic trophy that Piper broke, they pieced that back together and put it on display, which was really cool. And one of the photographs off of Piper's Pit was right there too. And everybody knows that Piper had a really close connection to the Hart family. There wasn't no actual British Bulldog attire though. Then you gotta go up the steps. You can kind of go to. I went down and then came back towards the front door. In the corner, they had the Rocket Robin's boots. Next to that was, make sure. One of Mighty Miley's full attire. Then one of the Molly Holly's when she was with the Holly Cousins tops with the famous light blue. One of China's full gear. Then there was one of Sister Sherry's wrestling gears. And then Ludwig Shawn, one of her gears. And two Medusas. And one of them, there's a photograph where her wearing it when she gets warmer matches with Bull Nakano at the time. Then we can kind of go to Jimmy Hart land. And attires that go with that. So one of them was like his natural disasters jacket that he wore when he managed the natural disasters. Then you had the Nasty Boys, another tag team that Jimmy Hart managed. He didn't have his jacket that he wore with that. They did have his Honky Tonk Man themed jacket, along with one of the red Honky Tonk Man jumpsuit was right there. Next to that was the $1 Billion Man Corporation, including Jimmy Hart's Money Inc. jacket, the black tuxedo, one of Virgil's pants when he went solo, and one of Nikolai Volkov's tuxedo shirt was also there on display. That was really. So seeing all that green worn gear from the all-time greats, I was really surprised that WWE didn't have the Bobby Heenan tuxedo. That surprised me to see that, to be honest. So big shout out for Squared Circle Expo having that display there. That was a really cool thing. Now let's go to the guest. Now I'm going to try to show, for those of you watching on YouTube, the video version of this podcast, I will be kind of showing off pictures. Are they in order? I do not know if they are or not. It should be somewhat. Somewhat. So the first guy I met on Friday was AEW's and one of the legends, Okada. And he was super nice. Here he is. I got a picture I have that he signed was him with the New Japan Pro Wrestling World Championship belt. Super, really nice. He spoke a little bit of English. He was able to say thank you and hello and stuff like that. Obviously, he's been in the U.S. for a little bit, so it was one of those things where you figure, yeah, okay. So hopefully you two don't, now we got a little couple there kind of bikini picture. This is a local independent girl. She's local, but she's also from Australia. But she lives in St. Louis now. Very talented wrestler, by the way. This is Mackenzie McKenzie. Met her. She was a lot of fun. Uh, she thought it was kind of cool to have a local in there. They're not covering over this. I don't know why. She was actually right across from where Okada was, so she was easy the next. Then we got Diana Hart Smith, which I don't know. She does a lot of these events these days, or in general, but it was really cool to see Diana Hart out there, doing a signing. But she was having a great time. She was very friendly, very talkative to me anyway, and was kind of really enjoying the experience going around, taking pictures with the other wrestlers, talking about the. So with her, it was really cool when her and David Hart Smith Jr. were in the room talking about Hart family stuff, and and as well as the guy who's put the whole display together, kind of telling the backstory of the stuff that he has, of obviously her brother Brett and Owen, Roddy Piper being close to the family, kind of learning the history behind the Slammy Award and the story on that, because it was really cool to kind of hear them talk, have those conversations like that. Then we have the Beta of Wrath, one of AEW's top women's tag teams, and two of the most popular women's wrestlers they have in the company, Willie Nightingale and Harley Cameron. Very nice. Obviously, as you expect from Willie Nightingale, based off her character on TV, she much different. As far as very energetic, very happy, and smiling all the time. um, but great to see them. They didn't. There's a film on top of some of these pictures that I've just now noticing, and it's driving me nuts a little bit. The Vihiro crinkling. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But that was them. They were super friendly and nice as well. Definitely have a major accent. Now keep in mind the timing, how I picked who I've beaten. It's kind of depending on when they show up. A lot of Friday, especially, there was a lot of flight delays that they do kind of in advance. About a day or two in advance, or it just happened because the way travels are these days in the United States. So they were kind of running late. Saraya ran late, aka Paige. So did Michael O'Malley and a couple other people. There were a handful of people who showed up late, but once they got there, they kind of they were great. So, which is what the next guy I met is Michael O'Malley. This is obviously a picture from TV show Heels. I don't know if you can see that well. I know there's a kind of a glare in this. Lighting, I don't know if the film helps there or not, taking that off. Because some of these have film and kind of takes that away a little bit. Oh. It's hard to see another to glare. Can't do much about it, but I kind of grew up with that man on television. As a teenager, as a kid, a teenager, and all that stuff, he kind of was always kind of there. Like, he started out with the hosting of Guts, which he had a picture of from that time. On Saturday, he had the trophy Aggro Crag trophy from the show. But he didn't have it with him on Friday. I think he just kind of dropped everything he had once he got to the hotel and came downstairs because he was running behind as it was. Super nice, super friendly. You can't say nothing. And he was very, talk to the people, to the fans and stuff like that. Which you never know when you deal with it's somebody who's more known for being in Hollywood and not wrestling, but just doing a show about wrestling. But he was amazing. Now, speaking of amazing, I think it's the last one from Friday, actually. I had to do a lot of waiting around for people to show up. I could be wrong. If I am, oops. Yeah. The last was Saraya, aka also known as Paige to those Dirty fans out there. Now, I want to talk about her for a second. Despite having a flight delay, which is something that you cannot control that part, but it happens. This woman was amazing with fans. Like, she was very, so despite that she was on a very limited time and had a tough schedule ahead of her, because keep in mind, she got there at 5:30. She signed up for close to an hour ish, or maybe a half hour, before she had to do the pro photo op, which I did also get one of those. This is because keep in mind, this is how I first met her. I was taking this picture because I was like, okay. By the time I get done with everybody else, that was by the time she got there, and was waiting on everybody else, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wait until after the photo op, because then I would have a little more time to wait around and stuff, get everybody else. Now, with her she was like very, very personal with everybody, wanted to talk to everybody and everything like that. That was such a great experience. I'm trying to make it where I'm light. Probably if I turn the light off, then everything looks dark. But so keep in mind, the convention itself was supposed to close it down, kind of pretty much close at 9 on Friday, because everyone was supposed to go to the wrestling show, right? She stayed till 10 o'clock to sign for and make sure every single person who was there wanting to meet her that she met them. And that speaks high volumes of a class act of how she is. I can tell you she does talk a little different than compared to her TV voice. And I think everybody in wrestling kind of has their own little TV voice, but you can really hear her UK accent really come out when you speak to her. Now I've watched her on Twitch streams. And I told her that I was a follower of that way back when. Even on Twitch, she sounded different than she did in person. I don't know if that's just a mic thing or what, but I just know it's something I definitely noticed. But I can also say about her is cameras do not do her justice of how naturally beautiful she actually is. But she definitely had that UK accent and terminology that she uses, that they use over there, which was, like, you definitely tell that's where she's from. But, like, talk about a very sweet person. Definitely that. So now we go to day 2, which is, again, no flight delay this time. But so, but it was just a way not really a flight delay per se were a big deal for Saturday. It was just a matter of how they're scheduled, what time they're actually ready and they came down the stairs, those kind of things. So at first I got in line thinking, oh, okay, DDP be first because he was the only one of the people that had limited time there, meaning he was going to be there until 3 o'clock. Keep in mind though, now the main part of the event kind of ends at 5, but it's carried off by 6 o'clock because then they tear down and get the wrestling show ready to go at by 8 o'clock. So where the ring is, that the bigger show is Saturday night. They have to take down half a room, so they add the remainder of the seats for that part of the show. But then it turned out DDP was not going to be there until like 11:45 because he said, "I want to do my photo ops first, and then I'll start doing the signing." So I like, okay. I went from first in line to like, okay, I'll go come back. So I jumped in Trish and Lita's line. They put them in a separate room so they could be together. Because I know there's a lot of fans who wanted photo ops with them, the two of them together, unless you get the professional ones. Which I did get that. But I only got a picture of Trish as far as what I got signed. Reason being, obviously, two reasons, really. One, I have a dozen of things that Lita has signed for me over the recent years. I have 8x10s already of her. I have the Funko Pop. I have postcards that she has sent me. I have just about everything you can think of. You name it, it's there. The only thing I don't have signed from her is probably a replica, something I don't even own yet, which is a replica women's title from the Attitude Era. Down the future line in the future, possibly a thing. But I was going to have her sign my Lita DVD, but dumb me stood in line all the time, not having it in hand. So I was like, oops. So needless to say, I only got an 8x10 of Trish. Which I think is the second one I have, actually. Because I only met her one other time 4 years ago. There's a story to that too, by the way. But so the way that worked is I walked in that room. Lita's on one side, Trish is on the other. And if you tell you wanted to meet both of them, you go down Lita's line first, and you turn around, go up, and go into Trish's line behind the group. Because literally we're letting people in that room by groups of 10. So you go down one time, 10 people, then you kind of go up and around and do it again. Not too bad. It was really cool because Lita immediately saw me right away and knew exactly who I was, as friends do. So we had our little catch-up moment. We took a bunch of pictures. You'll find out on social media. We took and then so we took our pictures, our selfies. They call them selfies at the table, but they have somebody take it for you. But we took our own as well. That's what we do. Kind of talked a little bit, and also already made plans to see her again in 2 weeks of this recording. In Springfield, Missouri, she's going to be. So, yeah, guess where that DVD is coming? It's going to get signed at. Probably there. But already kind of discussed that already. Then I went into Trish's line. Not expecting to hear what I heard from her. The first thing she said to me was, I know you from somewhere. We have met before. I'm like, we have met one time 4 years ago. The fact that she remembered the face, who I was, not the name, obviously, but she recognized me, says a lot. Knowing that she'd seen probably at least beats 1 million fans a year. With all the signings that she does every single place she goes to, I know she at least gets a few thousand fans each time. So times that by 4 years worth of that doing that. You know, which was kind of remarkable how well her memory is. Trish and Lita's memory is always forward because Lita remembers shit that we talked about months prior to that, like it was nothing. Like, but like we were talking about the shirt I where I had the Team Bestie shirt they had on special um, during when they're celebrating their 25th anniversary when they headlined it Raw, and it was a magazine cover reenactment image that they had put out. I think it was last year or the year before. It was kind of around Christmas ish, if I recall correctly. But sure, when kind of making comments that they felt that the image should have been bigger, and then and then she had me turn back to Lita, and she's like, "What do you think? Should this be bigger?" You're like, yeah. So asking my opinion, like Lita said something like, "You're supposed to say yes," and like I wasn't going to say no, like. So it was like a little comedy thing that we were goofing off a little bit, which was really fun. Honestly, great catching up with them. Always highly recommend to see them at any time you get a chance. Trish and Lita are top notch in my book. Because like I said, much like Saraya, like I was talking about with Saraya, they're always going to talk to you, be personal with you, give you, at least give you the time. They're not those kind of people that just sit there, sighing with their head down, barely say anything. They're, especially when you put the two of them in the same room together, they're always, being themselves, doing, like, everybody who hang out with their friends know what that means, they're laughing and making jokes, they're having a good old time, having a blast. So, which makes, for the fans watching, makes it even that much fun, more entertaining and fun as well. Especially when they include you into it, So following that, then I went across the hallway and got in line to meet Diamond Dallas Page, DDP. And here's the photo I got of him that he signed. And again, once again, another class act. No filter as far as his language goes, because I remember one of the things he said to me was, he saw my shirt and he goes, "Wow, Trish and Lita, huh? Awesome fucking shirt." And and I just told him, "Yeah, I just came from meeting them." He goes, "So you got two hot fucking women and fucking badasses can go wrong there." Like that's exactly what he said to me. And then we did our DDP photo online. You can find that. All right, they're in here somewhere. And so again, DDP was this amazing person. So then I had to go find. So after that, I went and stood another line for a while to meet these two men, Masahiro Chono and the Great Buddha. Again, another reason was what made the event so special was to have the idea to ever meet the two of them, because obviously these two are not known to be touring the United States a lot these days and doing signings. Muda has done it a lot more than have seen Chono's name floating around in any of these conventions like WrestleCon and so forth like that over the years. I know I saw Muda doing quite a bit last year pop around. Chono, this is like one of the first I've seen Chono in I don't know how long. So After that, I went and did my pro photo off with Trish and Lita. Um, I won't show the Lita one because it didn't turn out the way I expected it to turn out. She'll know when I see her, when I show it to her. But here's the team besties together. Those who are listening, I'm showing a picture of me with Trish and Lita. Here's me with Trish. Now the Lita one, fuck it, I'll show it. There's two different ones that they're supposed to print out, and they're supposed to print out the best of the two, I guess. For some reason they chose this. Those of you who are listening and only, Lita's not looking at the camera. She's looking. Her eyes are kind of closed, looking like the other way, or like looking at me direction. But her eyes are kind of closed. I don't think that's the one they're supposed to be printing out because the other one they have, we're both smiling, looking at the camera. But whether or not she listens to the podcast or sees this episode before I see her in 2 weeks, we're gonna have a little fun with that one. I think. But I haven't posted it online because I'm not going to do that just yet. So following that, we got another lingerie / bikini picture because all her pictures that she had as choices were like that. That was Priscilla Kelly, also known as WWE as Gigi Dolan. Very, very nice as well. Didn't expect her just be able to walk right to her table and just get it signed. Like, I thought she would be one of those people who would have more of a line throughout the day, but I just guess I caught it the right time. Because she didn't have a line at all at that very moment. So we're getting close to the nitty gritty as far as who all I met. Next, talk about somebody who was Buff Bagwell. Now, throughout the years, I was always kind of hesitant to meet him. Mainly because there's a lot of reputations of how he used to be, but ever since he got with DDP and doing the DDP yoga thing, and all he's been through from that point coming this way, being celebrate sobriety in a little bit. I think he's on 3 years now. No, Sereo's 3. Yeah, I think he's just a little longer than that. But his attitude is and the way he talks to people is so much different because we literally had before he even took the picture or him signing anything. We really were sitting there for about a good 15 minutes just talking about stuff. And I can tell you, it wasn't even wrestling related stuff we were talking about. We were talking about our hotel experience with her because, unfortunately, for a lot of rooms, including my own, including Bagwell's, we spent most of the weekend without Wi-Fi or television. And he was talking about his experience with his room because he was asking if we were having the same issues or not, and we're like, yeah, we were. And one of the people that were actually working for Squared Circle Expo actually fixed it. But it did not. Every single room in the hotel got fixed until about midday of Saturday, so I didn't even have a reason to ever try to using it because I was too busy doing my thing, meeting talent and talking with fans and whatnot. But he was just telling me his story, like, okay, he got there Friday. Nothing was working. Came back upstairs Friday night after he was doing signing. All of a sudden, his TV was moved like crooked, and he gained an extra television remote. Meaning somebody was in his room while he wasn't there, not knowing that anyone was in there. So he called front desk, and obviously asked him, like, were they working on something? Did they, you know, what were they? What was the story? Like, well, they told him whatever they told him that, like, they apologized that anyone was in there and stuff like that. It wasn't no big deal. Nothing got stolen or anything crazy like that. He just found it odd. So then he talks about then he went to bed for the night. About 4:30 in the morning, all of a sudden he got his TV back, and of course it was blaring loud. He didn't know what the volume was. He didn't know how it was set up, what channel was even on because you couldn't see it. Um, so he's like, the last thing I wanted to have happen to me at 4:30 in the morning to have my TV blaring of a cheerleader competition. And trying to fumble and find which of the two remotes that he had gotten, which one of them actually worked to control the television. Now keep in mind, it's not as easy for him to jump out of bed to do these things. Now that he's an amputee, missing without, until after we're sleeping, he's not wearing a prosthetic leg. I'm assuming. But like, his spirit and everything else was so great, So big shout out to Bagwell, like how well he was just a lot of fun just to talk to about. We weren't even talking wrestling. Then that what made it really cool was that we could have a full conversation, not be asked about wrestling. Just talk about whatever's going on, And that I thought was really cool. And those are the kind of experience you take away that separates different experiences from others. When you're you're not just sitting there asking wrestling questions, you're just talking about life kind of stuff. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing. Then the last people I met, which I'm glad I did wait until when I did, because for all day long, both days, these two always had a line. By the time it where like they were just, towards the end of the Saturday, where the lines were starting to dwindle away. That was the New Age Outlaws, and now keep in mind, Road Dogg didn't get announced until like literally 2 days after he left WWE. Is when they brought him right away to be able to do the New Age Outlaws. And it was kind of cool was the Billy Gunn headband. The Road Dogg was telling about that for a moment, asking me, "Do you know who designed that headband?" And of course, I did. I blanked and said, "You did, right?" And no, this was the Hardy Boys, and it really told me a really cool Hardy Boys story. Because keep in mind, those of you who are listening, I got a picture of the New Age Outlaws, which Billy Gunn is wearing the headband that says Mr. Ass on it. So Billy Gunn, was talking about the Hardys. So Road Dogg goes, yeah, no, it was the Hardys back when they were making their own gear. They made these for us, and Billy Gunn was kind of like, yeah, the Hardys for so many years worked for us as extras. For so many years before they actually became regular on-air talent. And he was like, and I told him, like, yeah, I remember there were like the doorman for like one of the King of the Ring events where they opened that door. He's like, yeah, they did that. They were enhancement talent and did all kind of small jobs on the side besides doing that. And I kept telling the writers and the booking team, like, these guys get it. These guys deserved more than they were getting at the time. And then you should be using these guys all the time as a tag team. Like, they are that good. They're talented. That they belong on the show, not just being extras like they were. So Billy Gunn, and Road Dogg kind of played a crucial part of them being utilized more than they were. Because keep in mind, 95, 96, the Hardys were part of WWE. They were enhancement talents. They were no, they were enhancement talents. And they were very young at doing that. Barely. Most states, Jeff wouldn't really technically legal age. He was like 17 years old. A lot of, and a lot of states, you gotta be 18, which is something that you learn when why certain Ring of Honor shows down the line, like the early shows, why only Jay Briscoe wrestled and not Mark. Mark was younger, and they were 18, 17, 18 years old at that time. So Mark could only wrestle in certain states up in the Northeast. So getting back to the Hardys, like they were around, they've been around for a while, just being, dressed in costumes, like doing the King of the Ring set, opening the doors and stuff like that. But like but they're talking about how they were pushing them to be, be a regular tag team on the show. And well, you saw what happened when they finally pulled that trigger. They became one of the all-time greatest tag teams of all time. But that concludes everybody I met during the Squared Circle Expo. And without question, I do plan on going to number 7. Because a big shout out to everybody who put that event together. And Adolfo deserved a ton of credit. They are the main two guys who put this thing together every year for the fans, by fans. It's what they, as they say, because they both got their own, shoot jobs as a term, meaning they do everything for a living. This is not how they earn money. And they're not everyday wrestling promoters either. But they do it for the weekend and a celebration to professional wrestling, and they do it well. And there's no event I ever been to like this that is so fan friendly. Meaning there's so much to do for the fans that don't cost extra to do. Like a lot of other conventions do. You don't have to pay extra to attend a panel. You don't have to pay extra to do the karaoke after parties. You only pay extra for VIP, and those perks are amazing. It's a headline perk. You get free admission to the wrestling shows. And there's two shows you get to attend to. You get Black Label Pro on Fridays, and you get a Squared Circle Expo produced show on Saturday. And then you usually load it with some name town that people have actually heard of. I'm not going to be a big spoiler on the results. You can go on YouTube and watch it yourself, the shows. But I will say it was really cool to see 2 matches from Takamichi Noku. Something that somebody you don't really truly expect to have a lot of matches in the United States. David Hart Smith Jr. also wrestled twice. Another guy you hear a lot of. Seeing Karrion Kross in action was awesome. The really cool thing, and I'm glad I got to be there for it. At the same time, it's kind of sad because it's kind of, you get used to the traditions of certain people being in action. So, one of the regulars of Squared Circle Expo, meaning they have been there every year that I've attended, and just about every year that the convention itself actually existed. That's the Headbangers. Now, those of you who don't know or may not know or may have heard it, that this is the last year the Headbangers are going to be wrestling. Which means that this was the last time they are going to actually compete on a Squared Circle Expo wrestling show. Now, That sucks to me because you get used to that, and they're so entertaining to watch, and they still got it. I mean, they still pull off a lot of their big moves, and everything. Like they still can move very well in that ring. They still can do their big double team moves, and they did them in this match. Um, but they made that decision, um, and they're one of the few people that you find in the after parties doing the karaoke and stuff like that. They're always there hanging out. You know, um, so and they know, and they always having a good time. They say they speak very highly of this event. Um, and so obviously that shows how well the people who organize the event and the people who do show up to these events, how great of people that you are, because you don't find bad seeds in this group. Because all the fans come out, have fun together, celebrate wrestling, don't give a shit about the tribalistic bullshit you see online. It's the total opposite of that. Everybody there just gets along because, hey, you're a wrestling fan. I talked to so many different people of all ages just about wrestling. Didn't care about any, didn't care if you watched AEW, WWE, or you're more of an old school classic fan. I live in a generation. I'm a guy that got to see so many different eras and watched so many and consumed so much different kind of wrestling that I can talk about just about any era in a way. So I can connect with those fans, and that's also a really cool thing to be able to do because I still watch to this day, but I love the things I've seen in the past. And to see certain wrestlers hang out, have a good time, mingle with the fan like a normal person. Don't act like don't act like a superstar or a celebrity. Certain people in wrestling do that too much. But like a lot of them are just down to earth, just act like normal people, and that's what you like about because every year that you always find the headbangers every year. You're always gonna find the Blue Meanie there hang out with the headbangers every single year. The first 2 years I went, Victoria was a regular up until the last 2 years. She was always there hanging out, having a good time. During the wrestling show, apparently they had a karaoke thing going. Shannon McKenzie did a karaoke at one point. It probably was before I got there. Or, because I know she wrestled Friday. I think she did it Saturday before a lot of the people who wrote the wrestling show got to see that. maybe it was on purpose. I don't know. But there were so many, but like you never know who's gonna pop in. Heath Slater usually does it too, but he wasn't there this year for family matters reasons. Hope all's well on that. That's why he wasn't there. But he's another one of those regulars. There's a group of people that you know they're going to be there up until a certain point. Until WWE signed them, Mike Cardona was one of those guys. Brian Myers is always there. Hornswoggle is always there. The major wrestling podcast is always doing their things and bringing all their different toy brands, selling those toys. This was the first year that we didn't have Matt Cardona because of him signing with WWE, but he was going to be there before that happened. They advertised him late last year. Then after the Royal Rumble thing happened, rest is history. But it's one of the things that we don't feel like. Yeah, sad that we don't get to see them there doing their thing, but we're happy for them to make that step to that next level. for anybody. I also met the Hex. Um, that's another somebody I met, but or said hi to. I see him every year. Um, like again, I didn't need a bunch of stuff, anything signed from them. I did buy a T-shirt that's in the other room of them, um, because I needed the new Hex swag. Um, because I have 8x10s of both of them. I don't. I have a counter on my both of those. So like, it's one of those things like I don't really need necessarily. So I just took pictures with them and stuff like that. Um, they were a part of the wrestling show on Saturday with the Headbangers, and they dressed like the Headbangers, which was really a cool touch. And to see them get emotional like that, because during the show they said Thrasher got on the mic first. Um, said talked about they're retiring. This is the last time they're gonna be in the ring at the event, but they more likely are still gonna be there as signing autographs and hanging out. And as Ed said on social media that they have a lifetime uh, invitation to show up. Um, but the You Still Got a chant, Hall of Fame chant, and everybody standing up and clapping for them. You can tell they got to them, and when by the time Chaz, or I call it Chaz, or also known as Mosh, by the time he got the mic, he couldn't say really. All he could say was thank you, because like he was so. He said in his head I had something I wanted to say, but hearing all these chants kind of made him go blank, which was like very cool. That kind of how touching they were to how the fans there appreciate what they did, you know. And when you think about it, how popular they were in the tag team, they are former tag champions. To say they're not a future Hall of Fame tag team, what's the criteria in WWE anymore? What really is, besides being well known and popular and being over with the crowd? That's pretty much it, because there's people in the Hall of Fame that were not about, oh, they were mega stars or held championships, a lot of championships. It was like there's no real clear criteria per se. Just saying. But they are former tag team champions that were very popular. To me, that's enough to say that they're Hall of Fame worthy in a lot of ways. Whether you agree or disagree with that fact, that's on you, but that's how I feel. Um, but yeah, that was my Squared Circle Expo experience. Another year in the books. Another phenomenal year in the books. Um, I'm always going to be curious for the next upcoming year. Um, what happens with Square Circle Expo number 7? Uh, which we won't find nothing really out until probably late summer, fall. Because I know that everybody who put the show together, they like to take a long, deserving vacation and not think about Square Circle Expo 7 for throughout the summer. Even though they kind of already wanting to plan one thing, which is what the theme is going to be like. But they're asking us, the fans, for ideas more than anything else. But they're not really thinking about it too hard, I don't think, right now. Especially this week when they're all trying to get back into the groove of their real life shoot jobs. Having to go back to work after all the fun that we have had, it's hard. I went back Tuesday. I think a lot of them went back home today. But to get back into the group after a weekend like that is very hard to do. Because you have so much fun and it goes by so fast, and that's how you're snapping your fingers and going, huh, it's over like that. Even though, like, yeah, my bank account would tell me a different story, and a lot of people were like, asking, was worrying a third day. I'm like, fuck, I don't think I can handle a third day. And then they toyed with it a couple of times, thinking about maybe they do, but they're like, both Ed and Adolfo have always said that they can handle a third day themselves, just because of how exhausted and tired they are after the 2 days. Which I 100% don't blame them a bit for sticking with the current schedule. And I know it's kind of crazy they always stick with Friday and Saturday because and the reason why was they always based it off, used to be based off Easter weekend, which changed last year because of WrestleMania being also on Easter weekend last year, and they're not going head to head with WWE's because we know everybody and their mother, as far as wrestlers go, whether you're under a WWE contract or not, they're where WrestleMania's at. Because of WrestleCon and all that stuff, and everybody goes there. Because all the wrestling companies go down there. And they always pick a certain weekend where they know people are available. And Easter weekend used to be so good for that, because WWE is not running during that time, or WrestleMania, and nobody else really running a big convention during that time. Well, this year they didn't do it that way for reasons probably hotel related, or what they had available. But it worked out great for this weekend, and I think my family kind of liked the fact that I didn't have to worry about when I'm getting home on a Sunday or Easter, which is never a big deal because I'm always home before 12 o'clock, easily. Because you gotta keep in mind, I leave there at like 9:30. Then the time zone changes, so it goes back down. So like I was home by 11:30, kind of thing. But again, if you're a wrestling fan and you have the opportunity to go to a Square Circle Expo event, 100%, 110%, 200% highly recommend going to it, because there's going to be something for you there, no matter what. If you're a collector for figures and memorabilia of anything, it's there. You want to meet a wrestler from any generation, from anywhere from the golden age of the 80s to present day in a way, you're going to find something there. You may not necessarily find a current WWE superstar there, but you'll find Hall of Famers, you'll find AEW talent or top level independent talent there. You'll find, legends from Japan, all kinds of talent. Because every year there's all end up being over 100 talent doing signings there. And if you truly appreciate wrestling in general, you're gonna find something there. Because obviously WWE talent have to do their own thing that WWE allows them to do, which has got to be a WWE promoted show. That's how others do it. But we know anybody who's got a Legends deal, not under a full-time WWE contract, they can show up. And that's why we got so lucky a couple years ago that Lita was under one of those kind of contracts, but she had a run in WWE where she was women's tag champion, but she was also booked for this event at the same time in advance. But because of the way her contract sets up, as not being a full-time contracted wrestler for WWE, she still was able to bring that belt to the show, which was really awesome in the years past. But you'll find like a lot of TNA champions there. You'll find a lot of AEW champions there, and etc. I think this was the first year that we didn't have a TNA champion. But I think also TNA was having an event over the weekend as well. It's one of the reasons why as well. But usually you'll get TNA talent there. Hopefully next year we'll get some of that, more of that too. Who knows? Well, all I do know is that next year it's going to be amazing as well because that's what this crew does. But I'm really going to be interested in what they come up with. It's going to be unique and great and unique from your perspective. Every year we always had something. This year we had the ring roll display. Year prior to that we had the viewing of They Live with Allison Kay and Allie hosting it. Year prior to that was the Hardy concert with Jeff Hardy. I feel like the first year I went to, there was something going on in there. I can't remember what it was. But so I'm gonna be interested to see what they come up with this year. There's already a lot of people wanting that ring worn display to come back, or maybe new things to that collection to be added, which I'm totally would be fine with that. But with that being said, that concludes my recap of my Squared Circle Expo 6 experience. I hope you enjoy it. Please like, subscribe, wherever you're getting this podcast episode from, whether it's the YouTube page or wherever you find your audio. Please support the podcast. Much always appreciate it. I'm going to try to get back into being more regular with this, and hopefully start lining up some guests down the line. That's my goal for the remainder of the year. And so, with that being said, I always appreciate for everyone who is watching on YouTube or listening to wherever you get your podcast from. This is Time Recliner 83 of Hustle Judge ENT, and I'll talk to you all really soon.